You don't have to see it to know it's there. You feel it in the way people glance at you, pause when you enter a space, or shift their posture like they're sensing something sacred. You're not imagining it. Your energy field, your aura, has been transforming. It's no longer just a subtle glow around your body. It's a beacon, a magnetic presence, a mirror, and as it grows in strength, the world can't help but respond. There was a time you questioned yourself constantly. You wondered if the discomfort you felt around certain people was you being too sensitive. You second-guessed those quiet knowings, those strange hunches that always turned out to be right. You dismissed your need for space as just moodiness, your dislike for crowds as a personality flaw. But now you're starting to understand. This isn't about personality, it's energetic evolution. When your aura becomes powerful, it stops whispering. It starts speaking clearly, even if no one hears it with their ears. You begin to trigger reactions in people that make no logical sense. Some feel instantly drawn to you, like they've known you before. Others feel uncomfortable, even agitated, without understanding why. That's the first real sign, because a powerful aura doesn't just shine. It reveals, it reflects people's truth back to them, and not everyone is ready to face that. You might notice people confessing things to you they've never told anyone, or avoiding your eyes, feeling exposed by your silence. That's because your energy no longer lets others hide. It invites honesty, authenticity, vulnerability, or nothing at all. And so your relationships start to change. Surface-level interactions no longer satisfy you. You crave depth, truth, resonance, not because you're judging others, but because your energy simply won't tolerate anything fake anymore. Your intuition sharpens to the point where it doesn't feel like guessing, it feels like knowing. You walk into a space and sense something's off without needing evidence. You know when someone's lying, when they're hiding pain behind a smile, or when something beautiful is about to unfold. It's as if your body becomes a tuning fork, vibrating in harmony with the unseen currents of reality. This isn't a fantasy, this is energetic intelligence, and once it activates, you realize you've been feeling it your whole life. You just didn't trust it until now. And with that shift, you begin to honor your own rhythm more deeply. You stop trying to explain your need for solitude. You no longer feel guilty for choosing peace over company. You understand now that being alone isn't about being lonely. It's about returning to center, recharging your field, recalibrating to the frequency of your own soul. The stronger your aura becomes, the more time you need to protect and nourish it. This is sacred maintenance, not avoidance. And the few who understand that about you, they're the ones worth keeping. You also begin to notice something else. When you're grounded and aligned, people around you begin to change, subtly at first. Then profoundly, someone anxious becomes calm, someone angry softens, someone closed off begins to open. You didn't say anything. You didn't offer advice. You were just there. But your presence spoke louder than words. Because when your aura becomes powerful, it becomes healing. You don't need to fix anyone. You just become a space where others can remember who they are. And at the same time, those who aren't ready for that kind of mirror, they'll distance themselves. They'll stop calling. They'll fall away quietly. Don't chase them. Let them go. Your energy is creating a boundary more effective than any words ever could. It's sorting out what aligns from what doesn't. And that's one of the most beautiful signs of all. You're not forcing anything anymore. You're letting your frequency lead. There's also a growing sense of flow in your life. You begin to notice synchronicities more often, repeating numbers, overheard conversations that answer your questions, dreams that feel like instructions from another realm. You meet people at the exact right moment. Doors open without effort. The universe isn't doing more for you now than before. You're just more in tune with it. Your aura has become a transmitter and receiver. You're sending out a clearer signal, and reality is responding accordingly. And here's the part that might surprise you. You're no longer drained by people the way you used to be. Those who once left you feeling exhausted now seem to bounce off your field, unable to penetrate your peace. That's because your aura has grown strong enough to filter, to repel what doesn't belong, to protect itself without your constant attention. You're not leaking energy anymore. You've become sovereign, and you can feel the difference. You also start noticing your connection to nature becoming more profound. You feel energy in the trees, messages in the wind, alignment in the stars. Animals approach you without fear. The moon feels like a companion. The earth doesn't just feel like home, it feels like you. Because when your aura is strong, your sense of separation dissolves. You realize everything alive is made of the same frequency, and your aura is simply attuning you to that truth. And something else begins to emerge. A glow. It's not something you see in the mirror, necessarily. But people tell you, often without knowing why, that you look different. You seem lighter, brighter. They say there's something about you they can't explain. That's your aura. It's radiating truth. It's reflecting the work you've done, the pain you've transmuted, the patterns you've broken, the love you've chosen. It's your soul made visible. That glow isn't surface level. It's not about being cheerful all the time. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about being authentic, real, grounded in your energy, no matter what the world throws at you. That kind of presence doesn't come from perfection. It comes from alignment, from knowing who you are, from walking in your own frequency, unapologetically. And so, your life begins to shift, not because you're trying to manifest something, but because you have become the manifestation. Your aura carries the signal of someone who's not waiting anymore. You've become the embodiment of your truth. And that is magnetic in a way no words, no strategies, no outer efforts could ever replicate. You've stopped chasing, not because you've given up, but because you finally realized that what is meant for you doesn't need to be hunted down. It simply needs to be received. And that shift, that surrender, that calm, unwavering certainty in your own energy, that is what bends reality around you. Because the universe doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to frequency. And yours is now unmistakable. There was a time when you thought your sensitivity was a burden, that you were too much for some people and not enough for others. You wondered why crowded rooms felt overwhelming, why small talk felt like noise, why certain people left you feeling heavy even if they smiled to your face. But now you understand. You weren't being dramatic. You were reading energy. You always were. You just didn't have the words for it. And now that your aura has grown, your inner compass is no longer a whisper, it's a roar. You don't waste time in situations that feel off. You don't tolerate conversations that lack depth. You don't feel the need to justify your silence, your boundaries, or your instincts. You know what you're feeling. You know what you're sensing. And you no longer seek external permission to honor that truth. The people in your life may have changed. Some slowly faded out. Others left abruptly. But none of it surprised you, not really. Because when your aura becomes powerful, it exposes what was always there. You start seeing the difference between connection and attachment, between loyalty and obligation, between love and familiarity. And though it may hurt at times, the clarity is worth everything. And here's where the real magic begins. You notice your thoughts, not just as ideas passing through your mind, but as vibrations shifting your field. You begin to treat your inner dialogue like sacred language, knowing each word carries weight. You stop speaking against yourself. Stop entertaining narratives that dim your light. You catch yourself when the old stories arise, and instead of falling back into them, you choose differently. That moment, that awareness, strengthens your aura more than any ritual ever could. You realize that energy hygiene is no longer optional, it's essential. You begin clearing your field regularly, not because you're afraid of absorbing negativity, but because you respect your own frequency too much to let it become clouded. Whether it's through meditation, grounding, breathwork, salt baths, or sacred silence, you learn how to reset yourself. Not for others, for you. Because your energy is your responsibility now, and you own it. And with that responsibility comes a deeper understanding of the impact you have. You start to notice how environments feel different after you've been there, how conversations linger in people's hearts, how your presence alone brings calm where there was chaos, or light where there was confusion. You're not trying to be anyone's savior, you're simply being yourself. But yourself is now aligned, and that alignment is contagious. The people who are drawn to you now, they're different. They don't need you to shrink. They don't demand explanation for your growth. They see you, not just the surface you, but the energetic you. They recognize the frequency because they're resonating at similar levels. Your conversations with them are expansive, electric, nourishing. You no longer feel the need to dim your truth to maintain connection, and that, in itself, is freedom. You've also started to experience guidance, not just in moments of stillness, but in the middle of everyday life. A song lyric comes on at just the right time. A stranger says something that answers the question you never voiced. Your body suddenly urges you to turn left instead of right, and somehow, that one shift opens up a whole new path. This is what it means to live in harmony with your aura. You don't need to force clarity, you receive it. It's subtle, but it's real. That whisper in your heart, that pull in your gut, that spark of knowing that appears without evidence, you no longer dismiss it, you trust it. Because your aura has become your guide. It's the bridge between your conscious mind and the intelligence of your soul. And every time you choose to listen to it, you deepen that connection. There's a moment, quiet and profound, when you realize that your energy is no longer reacting to the world, it's shaping it. You feel it when you walk into a space and the energy shifts. When someone stares at you not out of attraction, but out of wonder. When children or animals gravitate toward you, sensing the safety in your presence. When someone says, "I don't know what it is about you, but I feel calm when I'm around you." That's not coincidence, that's resonance, that's the evidence of your aura doing what it was always meant to do. Transmit truth, stability, presence. And it's not about being perfect, it's about being real. Because authenticity is the highest frequency of all. And when you live in that frequency, your aura becomes a force that others feel, even when you say nothing. At some point, the separation between spiritual and practical disappears. You stop compartmentalizing your life. Your aura doesn't switch off when you go to work or run errands. It's with you when you're answering emails, folding laundry, having lunch with a friend. Your vibration is active, humming beneath it all, shaping how you move through the world. You are no longer doing spirituality. You are spirituality embodied. And as this embodiment deepens, something incredible begins to happen. You start to feel safe, not because the world has changed, but because your inner reality has. Your aura has become your sanctuary. You walk with a quiet confidence that doesn't need to prove or persuade. You move with intention. You speak with clarity. You rest without guilt. And most of all, you love, not from need, but from overflow. That overflow is where the real magic lives. It's the energy that heals without trying, teaches without preaching, uplifts without needing credit. You become a lighthouse not because you're trying to guide others, but because you simply refuse to dim. And those who are meant to find you, they will. Not because you chase them, but because your light is now too strong to be ignored. It's humbling, isn't it? To realize that your greatest power has nothing to do with force, control, or performance, and everything to do with presence, real presence. The kind that doesn't demand attention but commands it anyway, because it's grounded, awake, and unapologetically true. You don't have to do anything special to be magnetic now. You simply have to be you, the real you, without the masks, without the roles, without the performance. And that's the most powerful order of all. You start to recognize that your energy speaks louder than your words ever could. You no longer chase validation or try to convince people of your worth. You've stopped auditioning for love, approval, or recognition. Why? Because you finally realize you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to vibrate, to radiate, to shine so brightly that anything false around you either rises or leaves. And you're okay with that now. You've made peace with the loneliness that once scared you, because now it doesn't feel like loneliness, it feels like clarity, like sovereignty, like divine solitude. The silence you used to avoid has become a sanctuary. You crave it, not because you're escaping the world, but because you're tuning back into yourself. And when you do that, when you come home to your center, your aura amplifies, it expands, it purifies. And something begins to shift even deeper. You stop looking outward for signs and start recognizing that you are the sign, the evidence, the miracle. You don't need constant reassurance anymore. You trust your process even when it's messy. You trust your timing even when it doesn't match the world's. And you trust your energy even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else. That kind of trust, that level of inner alignment, is what makes your aura unshakable. You begin to walk differently, slower, softer, but more intentional. You no longer rush to fix everything or respond to every invitation. You don't jump at every opportunity, because you now understand not everything that glitters is alive. Not every open door leads somewhere sacred, and not every connection is meant to stay. Your aura begins to act as your gatekeeper, sorting for you, choosing for you, not out of fear but out of discernment. Discernment becomes your quiet superpower. It's not judgment, it's not criticism, it's clarity. It's the ability to feel immediately whether something is nourishing or depleting, whether it resonates or repels, whether it invites expansion or contraction. And when your aura is strong, you don't second-guess these feelings. You follow them. You move accordingly. You align swiftly, cleanly, without needing anyone else to understand. And because of that, your boundaries change. Not just your emotional ones, but your energetic ones. You no longer over-explain, overshare, or overgive. You don't feel the need to justify your absence or your silence. You're not being rude, you're being radiant. Because when your aura is powerful, it begins to self-regulate. It no longer allows what drains, it only welcomes what harmonizes. People may call you mysterious. Others might say you've changed. Some may even accuse you of being distant. Let them. Their perception of you has nothing to do with your truth, because deep down you know. You're not pulling away. You're rising. You're not becoming cold. You're becoming clear. You're not closing off. You're becoming whole. And that shift in you, that's the aura speaking. You start attracting differently, not because you're forcing anything, but because you're radiating something new. People feel safe around you without knowing why. They feel inspired without you preaching. They feel empowered just by being in your space, not because you're fixing them, but because your very presence reminds them of what's possible. You don't change people. You awaken them. That's the hidden beauty of a powerful aura. It doesn't need to control, manipulate, or convince. It simply is. And that being, that unwavering frequency of truth, is what changes the room when you enter. It's what softens the guarded heart, clears the foggy mind, and opens the spiritual eye. Not because you tried to do anything, but because you showed up in your full, aligned, radiant self. And that alignment begins to spill into every corner of your life. You find that abundance begins to flow more freely, not because you're working harder, but because you're no longer blocking it with doubt. You notice opportunities finding their way to you, not because you're hustling non-stop, but because you're now in vibrational harmony with them. Your aura is acting like a signal tower, calling in what matches your frequency and filtering out what doesn't. You stop worrying about how things will happen. You release the obsessive planning, the mental loops, the endless effort to control outcomes. Instead, you focus on your vibration, your inner state. your alignment. Because you've learned that when your aura is radiant, grounded, and clear, life organizes itself around that energy. The people, the resources, the timing, all of it starts bending in your favor, not through force, but through resonance. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to remember who you truly are, not the version of you shaped by trauma, not the role you played to survive, not the image you curated to be accepted, but the real you, the luminous, sovereign, infinite you that has always been there beneath the noise. Your aura doesn't just reflect that truth, it amplifies it. And once that remembrance happens, there's no going back. You can't unsee your light. You can't shrink for comfort. You can't fake what no longer resonates. You've outgrown the shell. You've outgrown the script. You're no longer living from the outside in, you're living from the inside out. And the world feels that. Whether they understand it or not, they feel it. You might notice fewer people around you, but the ones who remain, they're the ones who see your soul, who feel your heart, who love you in your truth, not just your performance. And those are the people who help you rise even higher, who reflect your light back to you when you forget, who vibrate with you, not because they want something from you, but because they recognize the sacredness of your presence. And that's the gift of a powerful aura. It reveals, it protects, it guides, it attracts, it heals. Not just for you, but for everyone you touch. You've become a walking prayer, a living affirmation, a radiant reminder that energy doesn't lie, and truth always glows. You don't need to be loud to be seen. You don't need to prove anything to be valid. You don't need to hustle for what's already yours. Your energy speaks long before your mouth does. Your aura leads long before your body moves. And your soul? It's been waiting for this alignment all along. There's a sacred quiet that calls to you now. It's not loneliness, it's resonance. A whisper from your own soul that says, come back, come inside, come home. The more powerful your aura becomes, the more sensitive you are to energy. Not in a fragile way, but in a refined way. Like a finely tuned instrument, you pick up on subtle dissonance, emotional noise, the static that others have grown numb to but you can no longer ignore. You begin to realize that your alone time isn't optional. It's essential, necessary for your sanity, your balance, your power. Being around people too long starts to feel like your energy is being stretched too thin, like your field is absorbing things it never asked for. You notice it physically, a heaviness in your chest, a fogginess in your head, a tension in your gut. You're not withdrawing from life, you're honoring your design. Solitude becomes your recalibration chamber, a place where your thoughts slow down, your body unwinds, and your spirit speaks up. In that quiet you feel the restoration. Your aura expands again. It smooths out, repairs, purifies. You don't need to do anything, just being in your own energy, undisturbed, is healing. And it begins to teach you that your greatest revelations don't come from noise, they come from stillness. Others may not understand. They might call you antisocial, distant, reserved. Some may even take it personally. But deep down, you know. It's not rejection. It's self-respect. It's energetic hygiene. You're not isolating. You're tuning. Because when your aura is powerful, it requires maintenance, care, intention. Not for appearances, but for integrity. And when you emerge from that solitude, you're not just refreshed. You're magnetic. You've refilled your field. You've cleansed your frequency. You've stepped back into your essence. And others can feel the difference. Without knowing why, they sense your clarity, your steadiness, your grounded presence. And often, they'll mirror that energy without realizing they're doing it. You become an energetic reset for others, not because you're trying, but because you've honored your own need for restoration. There's also a deeper intelligence forming within you, and knowing that presence isn't about being constantly available. It's about being fully aligned when you are, and you're no longer willing to give fragments of yourself to situations that don't deserve the fullness of your light. If that means missing an event, turning off your phone, or simply sitting in silence when others want noise, you're okay with that, because you've tasted the power of solitude and nothing artificial compares. And here's something unexpected. The more you fall in love with your alone time, the more the universe begins to shift around you. You stop attracting chaos. You stop participating in drama. You stop magnetizing relationships that thrive on emotional volatility. Why? Because your aura no longer resonates with disorder. It doesn't crave stimulation. It craves peace. And peace, once it anchors into your field, starts to attract everything that matches it. You find that you'd rather be alone with your truth than surrounded by people who don't recognize your frequency. And that's not bitterness. That's evolution. You've spent enough time shrinking to fit in. Now you're expanding to fit you. And that kind of expansion doesn't need company. It needs consciousness, spaciousness, stillness. That's the soil where true transformation takes root. Even your conversations begin to change. You're no longer interested in surface talk. Gossip feels like poison. Complaining feels heavy. You want dialogue that moves energy, words that heal, ideas that stretch you. And if those conversations don't happen often, you're okay with silence, because the inner dialogue between your soul and your higher self, that's more fulfilling than 1,000 empty exchanges. You realize that solitude isn't the absence of connection. It's the deepest connection of all. It's where you hear your intuition without static, where you commune with spirit without interference, where you get to just be. Not for anyone, not as anything, but as you. And in a world obsessed with constant output, that kind of being is revolutionary. As your aura grows, it begins to demand that you be more selective with where you place your energy. Your calendar changes, your priorities shift, you say no more often. Not out of spite, but because you've stopped outsourcing your life force to things that don't nourish your soul. You no longer feel guilty for choosing rest, for turning inward, for skipping the noise so you can feel the signal. And that signal is always clearer when you're alone. Alone in nature, alone in breath, alone in thought, alone in prayer. That's where your aura whispers to you. That's where the guidance flows. That's where you hear things that are too quiet for crowded rooms to echo. You begin to treat those moments like sacred appointments, because they are. Every pause is a portal. Every breath a blessing. Every moment of solitude a ceremony. And once you integrate this, you stop fearing the quiet. You embrace it. You stop needing distractions. You start needing depth. And you discover that the greatest company you could ever have is the version of you that shows up when no one else is around. That version, that's the real you, the one who's been waiting to be seen, not by the world but by you. So no, you're not distant. You're just devoted to your energy, to your peace, to your truth. And that devotion, that's what makes your aura untouchable, unshakable, sacred. Because the more you honor your solitude, the more the universe honors your energy. And you begin to see it, not as separation, but as preparation. Not as retreat, but as refinement. You're not pulling away from life. You're preparing to meet it from a place of strength, of clarity, of wholeness. This is how powerful auras are built. In silence, in slowness, in stillness. You're not just preserving your energy, you're amplifying it. You're becoming a vessel of alignment. And that alignment will speak louder than any words ever could. Something beautiful starts happening. Without trying, without planning, without even knowing it sometimes, you begin to shift people. Not because you're offering them answers or solutions. Not because you're trying to fix or change them, but simply because you're there. Your energy walks in before you do, and when it does, something begins to soften in others. You may notice it in their eyes, a flicker of vulnerability that wasn't there before, or in their posture, shoulders that drop, walls that fall. People start to feel safe in your presence. They feel understood, even if no words are spoken. They feel seen, like maybe, just maybe, they don't have to perform or pretend anymore. This is one of the clearest signs that your aura has become powerful. You don't have to say anything. You don't need a title. You don't need a script. Your vibration does the talking, and it carries the frequency of peace, of truth, of grounded presence. That's what heals. Not your advice, not your logic, but your energy, your very being. You'll begin to notice it in the way strangers suddenly start telling you their life stories, in the way someone sits next to you and says, "I don't know why I'm telling you this, but," or in the way your friends come over just to be near you, not for entertainment, not for distraction, but for restoration. You become a sanctuary, a safe space, a mirror, and most of all, a presence that reminds people of what they are capable of feeling too. And that's the key. You're not giving them anything they don't already have. You're not transferring power. You're helping them remember theirs. Your aura holds a vibration of remembrance, and when people are near it, something ancient and sacred in them begins to stir. They may not be able to explain it, but they feel it. Some may say you have a calming effect, others say you're easy to talk to. A few might call you magical, but all of them are responding to the same thing. Your field, your frequency, your inner coherence. It's palpable. And in a world that's starving for authenticity, you've become medicine. But here's the part no one tells you. It's not always easy. Being that mirror means that not everyone will like what they see. Some people will feel exposed, uncomfortable, even triggered around you. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your energy refuses to play small. It reflects truth, and truth, when it meets someone's illusion, can feel like confrontation, even when it's silent. So don't be surprised if some people pull away, if they suddenly stop reaching out, stop inviting you, or even start projecting their own discomfort onto you. It's not personal, it's energetic. When your aura becomes powerful, it becomes discerning. It stops entertaining masks. It stops enabling dysfunction. And in doing so, it forces people to either rise with you or retreat. And the ones who choose to rise, they begin to change just by being around you. They feel braver, clearer, more whole. They start to make different decisions, not because you told them to, but because your presence reminded them they could. Your energy holds up a mirror that says, "Look, this is who you really are." And once someone sees that, they can never fully unsee it. You may notice your healing effect extends beyond people. Even animals may begin to respond to you more. A skittish dog becomes calm. A restless cat curls up beside you. Babies stop crying. Trees seem to move in rhythm with your breath. Nature, too, responds to coherent energy. Because it is coherent energy. And when your aura becomes aligned, the natural world recognizes you as kin. You begin to walk through life not as a person trying to do something special, but as a presence that carries a frequency. And that frequency speaks louder than words, louder than strategies, louder than any performance ever could. This is why certain people leave your space smiling, even if they arrived in tears. This is why they thank you for helping them, even if all you did was listen. This is why they say, "I feel better now," and you don't know exactly why, but you smile, because you do know. You're holding a vibrational signature that others can attune to. It's like a tuning fork. When someone steps into your field, they either begin to vibrate in harmony with it, or they step back because it's too much. But the ones who stay, they grow, they glow, they remember, and so do you. This gift, this energetic healing, it doesn't come from trying hard. It comes from becoming softer, from being real, from doing your own inner work, from releasing what was never yours, from forgiving, from loving, from being. You earned this frequency not by escaping the pain, but by walking through it, alchemizing it, and emerging with something sacred. So when you notice people lighting up around you, when they exhale a little deeper in your presence, when they say they feel lighter without knowing why, trust it. You're not imagining it. You're witnessing the ripples of your aura in real time. You're watching what happens when energy speaks truth into a world full of noise. And no, it's not your job to heal everyone. It's not your responsibility to carry others, to save them, to pour endlessly from your well. But it is your birthright to radiate, to embody, to be the lighthouse, not to swim out and rescue every ship, but to stand firm and shine, so those ready to return home to themselves can find their way. That's the beauty of a powerful aura. It heals not by force, but by frequency, not by instruction, but by inspiration. And your presence right now, in this world, is the very medicine someone has been praying for. You've probably started to notice, you don't even have to call it out anymore, you just feel it. That subtle discomfort when someone's words don't match their vibration. That tightness in your chest when someone's smile is masking something else. That quiet inner knowing that says, this isn't real. And just like that, you're out. Not angrily, not dramatically, just energetically. Gone. You don't need to argue, you don't need to explain. Your aura does the talking now. It acts like a sacred filter, one that repels anything that doesn't resonate with your truth. It's not personal, it's energetic. When your aura becomes powerful, it becomes sovereign. And sovereignty doesn't entertain distortion, it doesn't tolerate manipulation, it doesn't bow to performance. You begin to realize how much of the world operates on facades, on masks, on energetic bait and switch. But you're no longer susceptible. You see through charm, you feel through compliments. You detect dishonesty not with suspicion, but with certainty. You don't need receipts or evidence. Your body tells you everything. And that's enough. This is the next level of energetic maturity, when your nervous system becomes an oracle, when your field becomes a guardian, and even when your mouth is silent, your energy is loud. Others feel it, even if they can't name it. They sense the boundary, the refusal, the silent no, and many will respect it without understanding why they do. You've probably watched certain people slowly drift from your life, people you once tried so hard to connect with, to understand, to please, but now there's no effort, no struggle. If it's not real, it doesn't land, it doesn't hold, it doesn't stick. Your aura simply doesn't let it in. And this doesn't come from judgment, it comes from clarity. It comes from the exhaustion of pretending, from the wisdom of your own healing, from the knowing that your energy is too sacred to be in spaces that require you to abandon your truth. You start valuing depth over charm, consistency over charisma, energy over appearances. You'd rather sit in silence with someone real than share laughs with someone performative, and you don't care if that makes you look cold or distant. Because you've been warm in rooms that froze your soul. You've been kind to those who wore masks. You've stayed too long in places your aura tried to pull you out of, but not anymore. Now you trust the signal. You trust that weird tension in your gut, that heaviness behind someone's words, that smile that doesn't quite reach their eyes. You don't need to call it out. You just honor it. You pull back. You reclaim your energy. And the moment you do, your aura breathes again. People who used to get away with deceit around you now feel exposed. They may get defensive, uncomfortable, even hostile, but deep down they know. They feel that their frequency can't land with you anymore. You're not shaming them, you're just not matching them. And that non-match is louder than any confrontation. It's a kind of energetic honesty that's hard to fake. People feel safe with you when they're being real, but the moment they veer into manipulation, performance, or shadow play, your aura creates a silent wall. Not to punish, but to protect. And it's not just protecting you, it's protecting the integrity of the space you're cultivating around you. You become a walking frequency check. Not because you're trying to be, but because your vibration is clear, anchored, untouchable. And those operating in shadow can feel that. Some will be drawn to the light and rise, others will flee it. That's not your burden to carry. You're not here to convince anyone. You're here to embody your truth and let your field speak for itself. You may notice conversations become more direct around you. People either get real or get quiet. The old social games, passive aggression, flattery, gossip, they simply fall flat. Your presence calls for honesty, and anything less just feels like noise. This makes some people uncomfortable, but for the right ones, it's a breath of fresh air, a homecoming, a place where they can finally exhale and be. You might even catch people correcting themselves mid-sentence. Their energy stumbles when they try to fake it, because your field isn't just listening to words. It's reading the vibration beneath them, and it's either a yes or it's not. And that sense of energetic rejection isn't cruel, it's pure, it's a frequency mismatch. People can feel when their energy doesn't land with you. They may say you're intimidating, intense, hard to read, but what they're really feeling is that their mask doesn't work here. Their script doesn't land. Their image doesn't hold. And for those who are ready to drop the act, your presence becomes medicine. You don't even need to say be real. They just are. Because your field invites nothing else. It reflects back truth. And truth, even when it's uncomfortable, is liberating. This is how your aura cleans house. Not with arguments, but with alignment. It doesn't need to fight. It simply refuses to absorb what doesn't resonate. It's like your very presence says, only the real can stay, and so the real stay, and the rest fall away. And in their absence, you create space for real conversations, real connections, real intimacy. Not the kind built on illusion, but on resonance. You stop wasting energy on being liked. You focus instead on being aligned. And in that alignment, you attract what you no longer need to chase. This is the quiet power of a refined aura. It protects by being precise. It attracts by being authentic. And it filters by being whole. So if you've noticed that fake energy no longer sticks to you, if you've found yourself walking away from situations you once tolerated, if you've felt people shift around you without understanding why, know this: your aura has become a force. And in that force, there's no space for what isn't real. That's not arrogance, that's clarity, that's power, that's presence. At first you think it's coincidence, seeing 11:11 on the clock, a friend texting just as you think about them, a random book falling off a shelf that contains exactly what you needed to read. But after a while it's too precise, too aligned, too frequent to ignore. That's not luck, that's resonance. That's the language of synchronicity. And it starts to speak louder when your aura becomes powerful. As your energy comes into alignment, your external world begins to respond in kind. You stop chasing reality, it begins responding to you. Every thought, every feeling, every intention ripples into the field, and the field echoes back. That's when the signs start to multiply. Not just once a week, sometimes daily, sometimes several times a day. It becomes clear. Something, someone, some force is listening. You begin to notice patterns. Repeating numbers like 444, 777, 333. Not just on clocks or license plates, but receipts, addresses, phone numbers. Symbols start appearing, feathers, coins, animals crossing your path in perfect timing. The dreams you once dismissed as nonsense now feel like messages, blueprints, previews, and the conversations you overhear seem to answer questions you've never even said aloud. You don't tell everyone about it, some wouldn't understand, but deep down you understand. Your energy is in tune, your vibration is harmonizing with the universe's signal, and when that happens, life stops feeling random. It starts feeling orchestrated, not controlled but divinely choreographed. Opportunities begin to arrive not because you forced them, but because you became them. You vibrated at the frequency of clarity, and clarity met you. You stopped begging for answers, and suddenly answers appeared in unexpected places. A line in a movie, a lyric in a song, a phrase in a stranger's mouth that felt like it was meant just for you. This is what it feels like to move from resistance into flow, to stop wrestling with life and start dancing with it. Your aura becomes a receiver, a transmitter, a bridge between your inner world and the infinite intelligence that guides all things. And the best part? The more you acknowledge these synchronicities, the more they multiply. Because attention is an amplifier. When you recognize the signs, when you give thanks, when you honor them with your awareness, you invite more. You're co-creating now. You're not asking the universe for help as if it's outside of you. You're collaborating with it. You've become a vibrational match to divine timing. You begin to live by a different kind of GPS, one that isn't ruled by logic alone. You feel your way forward now. You make decisions based on energy. You trust your gut more than the data. And somehow, it works better than it ever did before. Because when your aura is clear, the signal from source doesn't get distorted. You hear it, you follow it, and it leads you to exactly where you're meant to be. People around you may say you're lucky, that things just work out for you. But you know it's not luck, it's alignment, it's intention. It's the result of doing the inner work, of clearing the static, of trusting the unseen more than the predictable. You've stopped chasing certainty. You've started following energy. And energy never lies. You may notice your creative ideas show up right when someone else offers the exact tool you needed. Or you're thinking of learning a new skill and the next day someone invites you to a free workshop. You have an intuitive nudge to walk a different path, and you bump into someone you haven't seen in years who gives you life-changing advice. These moments don't just happen. They're orchestrated through the resonance of your field. And it's not just about getting what you want. It's about remembering that you are always being guided, especially when things don't go the way you hoped. You stop seeing delays as punishment. You start seeing them as protection, as preparation, as redirection towards something better aligned. When your aura is powerful, you don't collapse in the unknown, you trust it. You trust the pause. You trust the shift. You trust the quiet between the signs, knowing that even silence has its message. You don't panic when the outcome isn't immediate. You understand that timing is sacred, and that what's unfolding is far more intelligent than what your mind can plan. This shift in perception changes everything. You stop needing to prove your worth through constant action. You stop trying to micromanage the universe. You simply align. You vibrate at the level of what you're calling in, and you allow your energy to do the heavy lifting. This is when the unexpected blessings start rolling in, not because you asked loud enough, but because your aura whispered clearly enough. Your energy now carries a frequency that makes doors open without knocking, that makes the right people arrive without searching, that makes reality reconfigure itself around your clarity, your intention, your truth. It's subtle, yes, but it's also unmistakable. You begin to feel when something is meant for you, not because of logic, but because your body says yes, because your spirit lifts, because the vibration is right. And just as clearly, you begin to feel when something is off, no matter how appealing it looks on paper. Your aura knows. It's been trained by experience. and now it protects you through intuition. You may begin keeping a journal, not of your problems, but of your synchronicities, of the way things line up, of the moments where you know, without question, that you are being guided. These entries become sacred reminders, anchors, evidence that you are supported, seen, and deeply connected to something much bigger than yourself. And the more you honor those moments, the more life begins to feel like a conversation, a call and response between you and the divine. You realize you're not alone. You never were. The signs were always there. But now, your aura has become sensitive enough to notice them. Your vibration is attuned enough to receive them. Your heart is open enough to follow them. That's not just alignment. That's mastery. You've become a living tuning fork for synchronicity. And that's the difference between living by force and living by frequency. You know that feeling. You used to walk away from certain conversations or interactions feeling like something had been taken from you, like a heaviness had latched onto your shoulders, like you gave and gave and gave and were left depleted, wondering why. Maybe you called it being a good friend, being supportive, being available, but really it was energy theft, and your aura knew it even before your mind did. But now, it's different. You've noticed the shift. You don't feel drained like you used to. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Your aura did. It's stronger now, clearer, more sovereign. You no longer unconsciously leak your light to anyone who asks for it. You don't allow your energy to be siphoned. You've become your own guardian. And the most beautiful part? You don't even need to say anything. You don't need to create dramatic boundaries or call people out. Your aura speaks for you. It sets the terms. It decides what's allowed in and what isn't. And people feel that. The ones who used to take more than they gave, they either shift or they disappear. Not in anger, in energetic mismatch. You've probably noticed it already. The one friend who always vented but never listened, gone. The co-worker who used you as an emotional dumping ground, quiet now. The family member who made you feel guilty for not giving enough, they've pulled back. You didn't push them. You didn't fight. You just stopped feeding the dynamic, and your aura did the rest. That's the power of an integrated field. It doesn't need to explain itself. It simply doesn't resonate with imbalance anymore. You don't even get mad. You get neutral, detached. And that detachment? That's protection. That's self-respect in vibrational form. You begin to notice that your body no longer tenses in certain situations, that you don't feel the same pressure to people please, that you don't overextend, over-apologize, over-give. You just show up, and if it feels right, you stay. If it doesn't, you go. No guilt, no justification, just clean, clear boundaries that your aura holds on your behalf. And here's the fascinating part. Some people rise to meet you. They adjust, they evolve. Because your field no longer entertains their lower patterns, you become a silent invitation for others to grow, not through force, but through frequency. This is when you start to feel the freedom, the peace that comes from not carrying everyone else's emotions, the lightness that comes from not absorbing every problem. You realize that compassion doesn't mean self-sacrifice, that love doesn't mean over-pushing, that being spiritual doesn't mean being a sponge for everyone else's suffering. Your aura has become intelligent. It can hold presence without taking on pain. It can witness someone's story without becoming entangled in it. It can offer light without burning itself out. That's not selfish. That's sacred. That's sustainability. You learn the difference between being available and being accessible. You're no longer on call for other people's chaos. You choose when and how to engage, and the more you do, the more your energy stabilizes. You feel more centered, more grounded, less reactive, because you're not being pulled in 1,000 directions anymore. You've returned to your own center. This is why certain people no longer feel comfortable around you, not because you've changed into someone else, but because you've changed back into yourself. And your true self doesn't tolerate energetic games. It doesn't bend to manipulation. It doesn't confuse proximity with connection. And it doesn't conflate being drained with being needed. You stop romanticizing being everything for everyone. You stop wearing burnout like a badge of honor, and you begin to rest in your power. You realize that the more aligned you are, the less you have to perform, prove, or protect. Your aura does that work, quietly, efficiently, with precision. And something interesting happens. People who used to take begin to shift. Some feel the invitation to heal, to rise, to give back. Because your energy no longer feeds codependency, it invites empowerment. And empowerment either scares people or liberates them. The ones who choose liberation, they stay. And they meet you in the new frequency. You begin to experience what real, reciprocal connection feels like. You give and you receive. You support and you are supported. You hold space and are held in return. That's how you know you're no longer surrounded by energy vampires, but by energetic equals. You may even feel physically stronger, more vibrant, less tired. Your nervous system stabilizes, your thoughts clear, your heart feels safer inside your own chest. That's the healing that happens when your energy is no longer being siphoned, when you reclaim what's always been yours. And when you do choose to help, when you do extend your light, it's powerful, potent, purposeful, because it's not coming from depletion, it's coming from overflow. And light given from overflow, that's where true service lives. That's where real transformation happens. So, if you've stopped attracting the same draining dynamics, if your circles have grown quieter but more nourishing, if your body feels lighter even in heavy times, know this: your aura has become a boundary, a protector, a filter, a sovereign shield of light. And in that shield, your energy is no longer up for grabs. That's not just healing, that's mastery. There's a moment, quiet and profound, when you're standing beneath the sky and realize it's not empty. It's alive. A presence, a pulse, a mirror of something you've always known but forgot how to name. And as your aura grows stronger, more coherent, more attuned, that presence begins to speak again. You find yourself looking at the trees and sensing something beyond their leaves. You feel their stillness as a kind of language, a deep, ancient wisdom humming through their roots. When the wind brushes your skin, it doesn't feel random. It feels intentional, like it's delivering something, clearing something, whispering something that only your spirit can understand. This is not imagination, this is resonance. Your aura has begun to harmonize with all life, not just human life, but life itself. Animals start responding to you differently. They pause around you, trust you, look into you instead of at you. A dog that would normally bark grows calm. A cat that's usually skittish curls in your lap. Birds fly near. Insects land on you without fear. It's like the natural world recognizes your field, not as a threat, but as kin. Because that's what your aura is becoming. A bridge, a field of remembrance. You're not just remembering who you are, you're remembering who everything is. You feel the river's rhythm inside your breath, the moon's cycle in your body. The sunlight doesn't just warm you, it feeds you. Every part of nature feels like a portal now, a reflection, a reminder that we are not separate. We're woven into the same pulse of being. You begin to sense the messages in the elements, not with your logical mind, but with your energetic one. The sky feels like an open scroll, the clouds like floating symbols. The stars begin to pull your gaze, not with awe alone, but with familiarity. Something inside you recognizes the patterns, the rhythm, the cosmic intelligence. You're not just looking at the universe anymore. You're in it, of it, moving with it. And this connection isn't something you studied. It wasn't taught. It was remembered. That's the magic of an awakened aura. It doesn't need to learn truth. It remembers it. It returns to it. It resonates with it so deeply that what was once mystical becomes natural. The spiritual becomes physical. The divine becomes daily. You may find yourself craving time in nature more than ever. Not for escape, but for return. You walk barefoot more often. You breathe deeper. You pause more. Trees feel like companions. Water feels like medicine. Fire feels like transformation. Earth feels like home. And when you're among these elements, your aura recalibrates, refines, realigns without effort. You start to notice your internal energy shifting with the seasons. As spring arrives, your creativity blooms. As summer rises, your power peaks. As autumn falls, you release what's no longer needed. As winter comes, you draw inward and restore. You're not fighting the cycle anymore, you're flowing with it. Your aura is syncing with the planet's breath. This is energetic attunement. You begin to live in rhythm, not in resistance. You don't force productivity when your energy says rest. You don't suppress emotion when your soul is asking to release. You listen to the moon, to the sky, to your body, because it's all speaking, all the time. And now, finally, you're listening. And in that listening, something awakens. A deep, steady pulse beneath the noise of modern life. You begin to feel the sacred in the simple. The wind becomes a prayer. The rustling of leaves becomes a song. The stars above aren't distant anymore. They feel like ancestors watching you remember. Your aura, now amplified, picks up on all of it. It's a spiritual antenna, receiving the wisdom woven into every moment, every breeze, every star. And it doesn't stop there. You start feeling connected to the collective, the animals, the oceans, the movements of distant planets. You realize the emotional waves you're experiencing aren't always yours. Sometimes you're feeling the collective pulse of humanity, the grief that's not just personal, but ancestral, the joy that's not just yours, but global. Your aura, now expansive, taps into the unified field, and because of that you feel more compassion, more reverence, more responsibility. But this isn't a burden. It's a blessing. To walk through life knowing you are not alone, not isolated, not separate. To feel that every living thing carries a spark of the same divine force that breathes through you. That's not just spirituality. That's sacred awareness. That's energetic union. And when you feel this, something inside you softens. You stop trying to dominate the world. You begin to cooperate with it. You see the spider as sacred, the rain as renewal, the soil as a storyteller. You look at a flower and feel gratitude not just for its beauty, but for its vibration, its contribution, its consciousness. Because everything is conscious now. Everything is alive, everything is energy, and your aura has become sensitive enough to feel that, to recognize it, to honor it. And that recognition becomes your way of life, not in theory, but in practice. You begin to treat your space differently. You clear your home not just to be clean, but to shift energy. You place your hands on plants and thank them. You light candles with intention. You speak to the moon. You feel the sun not as a ball of fire, but as a friend, a guide, a giver of life. This is what happens when your aura expands beyond the human story. When it reconnects to the cosmic song. You become less reactive, less urgent, more still, more attuned. You walk softer, not because you're afraid, but because you're aware. You move through the world like it's sacred, because now you feel that it is. And maybe, without even realizing it, others begin to follow your lead. They see the way you pause to feel the breeze, the way you whisper to the trees, the way you smile at the sky, like it just told you a secret. They may not understand it, but they feel it, and something in them remembers too. Because your aura doesn't just connect you to nature, it becomes a reminder that they can too. That's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it real. You begin to notice it one morning, maybe after a dream that felt more like a memory than a fantasy. You wake up with clarity, a message, a knowing you didn't fall asleep with. And it keeps happening. The dreams become vivid, specific, symbolic. You don't always understand them right away, but they leave an imprint, an energy, like someone has been speaking to you in the space between worlds. And in truth, they have, because now your aura is tuned, open, receptive. It no longer needs ceremony or effort to connect to guidance. It simply is connected. What used to take deep meditation, long journaling sessions, or oracle cards now comes in flashes, in whispers, in sensations you can't explain but feel with every fiber of your being. The inner voice that once felt like a whisper in the back of your mind. It's grown louder, steadier. It doesn't shout, but it doesn't need to anymore. You've learned to listen, and because of that, you don't miss the message. You trust it. You don't talk yourself out of it, or wait for someone to validate it. You just know. And knowing changes everything. You begin moving differently, not because someone told you to, but because the nudge within became too strong to ignore. You cancel a trip at the last minute and avoid chaos you never saw coming. You take a walk you hadn't planned and bump into someone who shifts your path. You make a small decision that seems random, but it opens the exact door you've been waiting on for months. That's divine choreography. That's your higher guidance in motion. You stop calling it coincidence, you start calling it what it is, alignment. And the more you trust that guidance, the less you force outcomes. You stop hustling for every answer. You stop chasing signs. You stop trying to bend the future to your will. Because now you know, if it's meant for you, it will come. If it's aligned, it will stay. If it's true, it will feel true. And anything that doesn't, you release gently, without clinging, without begging. You've learned that your guidance isn't just in the yes, it's also in the no, in the pause, in the delay. You no longer interpret silence as abandonment, you interpret it as preparation, as divine timing doing what divine timing always does. Align the unseen pieces before the manifestation arrives. So you rest, not because everything is perfect, but because you know you're being led. You've started to live your life more like a dance than a checklist. Less control, more connection. Less resistance, more rhythm. You're no longer trying to make things happen. You're letting them unfold, not passively, but intuitively. Your decisions are informed not just by facts, but by feelings, and not fleeting emotions, deeper currents. You sense when something is right because your body says yes. You feel when something is wrong because your spirit tightens. Your aura doesn't lie. And now you know how to read it. That inner compass you once ignored? It's your primary navigation system now. You've probably found that people come to you for clarity, but they're not asking you for your opinion. They're hoping to borrow your alignment. They see you moving with grace through uncertainty and want to know how. The truth is, it's not that you're never confused. It's that you trust even when you are. You know the answers don't always arrive instantly, but they always arrive. And they come in the most unexpected ways. A sudden thought while washing dishes, a phrase that repeats in your mind all day, a song lyric that hits differently, an emotion that won't leave until you listen. These aren't accidents, they're messages. And now your aura is so clear that they no longer have to scream to be heard. You don't need the perfect environment to receive. You could be in the middle of traffic or a grocery store or brushing your teeth, and boom, the guidance drops in. That's what happens when you become aligned. You're in conversation with the universe all the time. The veil has thinned, not outside of you, within you. You're not seeking gurus. You're not desperate for answers. You've discovered the sacred voice that's always been there, beneath the programming, the noise, the fear, and the more you follow it, the more it proves itself. It's in the job offer that arrives the day you decide to stop settling. It's in the book that shows up when you were just about to give up. It's in the mentor that appears when you outgrow your old life. Your guidance doesn't come when you beg, it comes when you align. And sometimes, that guidance leads you into the unknown, into stillness, into temporary loss. But even there, especially there, it doesn't abandon you. You may not always like the direction, but you trust it, because you've felt what happens when you ignore it, and you've seen the miracles when you follow it. Your dreams at night become part of that communication. You no longer dismiss them as nonsense. You begin to see the symbols, the colors, the timing. You wake up with answers. You hear names. You relive moments from past lives. You receive healing not through words, but through experience. You begin to understand that sleep isn't a shutdown. It's a download. You stop craving external validation. You stop needing to explain your path. You stop fearing wrong turns, because every path, even the messy ones, brought you here, to this place of inner attunement, where life feels less like a maze and more like a map, and your aura is the compass, always pointing you back to truth. This is what it means to be guided. It's not about knowing everything, it's about trusting yourself enough to move even when you don't. It's about feeling the yes in your bones. It's about letting the mystery be beautiful, not terrifying. And most of all, it's about remembering that you were never alone in this. You were never walking blindly. You were being led, always, even in the dark. Now finally you can see it. Now finally you're listening. At first it's subtle, a comment here and there. You look different lately, or there's something about you, I can't explain it. But you feel it before anyone says it. The lightness in your chest, the softness in your eyes, the way you move through the world with more ease, like your body and spirit are finally dancing in sync. And then people start saying it more, that you're glowing. But it's not about your skin. It's not about makeup or fashion or posture, it's your energy. Your aura has grown so strong, so clear, that it radiates through your entire being. You've become luminous, not because of what you wear, but because of what you carry, what you've cleared, what you've integrated, the weight you've shed, not just physically, but energetically. Your glow is a reflection of alignment, of coherence, of internal harmony that no product can fake. It's the way your eyes shine when you speak your truth, the warmth that follows you into a room, the softness in your voice that calms people before they even understand why. Your aura isn't just invisible light anymore, it's visible, tangible, felt. You may look in the mirror and not just see yourself, but feel yourself. There's less tension in your face, less weight behind your eyes. Even your expression changes. You smile more. You breathe easier. You carry yourself with a quiet confidence that says, I know who I am now. And people can't help but notice. Children especially sense it first. They gravitate towards you, smile at you, reach for you. Animals come close and linger longer. Strangers open up without prompting. It's not about charisma. It's energetic availability. Your aura is sending out a frequency of safety, of warmth, of depth. And those tuned into feeling respond immediately. And what's more incredible is that this glow doesn't depend on how good your life looks on the outside. It's not tied to accomplishments or accolades. In fact, some of your brightest glow may appear during your quietest seasons, when you're not doing much at all, but simply being, healing, resting, aligning. Because glow isn't about achievement. It's about embodiment. You've cleared so much stagnant energy, so many limiting beliefs, toxic attachments, outdated patterns, that your light can finally come through. And once it does, it doesn't turn off. Even when you're tired, even when you're not trying. It remains, because it's not something you're forcing. It's something you've become. And people can feel when someone's glow is real. You don't have to sell it. You don't need attention. You don't need approval. You don't need applause. Your presence becomes the statement. It speaks in stillness. It announces itself without noise. And the ones who are awake enough to feel it, they'll recognize you as one of their own. But your glow also acts as a filter. Just like your aura repels what isn't aligned, your radiance can disrupt those living in shadow. Some may project their discomfort. Others may call it too much. But you're not here to dim. You're not here to shrink to make others comfortable. You've worked too hard, healed too deeply, loved too bravely to go back to hiding your light. Because that glow didn't come from perfection. It came from presence, from showing up in your darkest night and choosing to keep going, from sitting in the fire of your own transformation and not running, from crying and releasing and breathing and learning. That glow is the afterglow of every part of you that once broke and chose to rebuild. You're not just glowing because life got easier. You're glowing because you got clearer, more honest, more whole, more in tune with what matters and what doesn't. And now, your energy wears that wisdom like a crown. People may ask for your secret. Some will assume it's something external, a new routine, a change in diet, a new relationship. But those are just details. The real shift happened in the unseen, in your energy field, in your subconscious, in your soul. You began choosing peace over performance, boundaries over people-pleasing, authenticity over approval. You let go of the need to be understood by everyone, and that act alone freed up so much of your essence. You stopped trying to convince others of your worth and started living from it. And that is where the glow is born. It's in the quiet mornings when you choose presence, in the hard conversations you no longer avoid, in the still moments when you look in the mirror and say, "I'm proud of who I'm becoming." It's in the forgiveness you gave not because they asked, but because you needed to be free. It's in the tears you let fall without shame, in the laughter that rose from your belly after months of silence. Your glow is all of it, every sacred piece, every breakthrough, every return to self. And it's contagious, not in a showy, performative way, but in a soul-to-soul transmission. Your glow gives others permission to soften, to open, to remember that they are light too, that they don't need to earn their worth, or hide their truth, or chase external validation to be radiant. You become a walking invitation for others to remember their own divinity. You'll start to notice something else. The glow protects you. You attract more beauty, more grace, more synchronicity, because life responds to alignment, not surface-level positivity, but true, grounded coherence. And your aura, now steady and expansive, radiates that coherence like a lighthouse through the fog. You don't need to beg for attention, it finds you. You don't need to hustle for love, you are it. You don't need to chase your future, you embody it. That is the difference between glow that fades and glow that awakens. So if people have started saying, "You look so peaceful lately," or "You're glowing," let them. Smile. Not out of ego, but in reverence for how far you've come. You didn't fake it. You freed it. You peeled back the layers of fear, shame, and self-doubt to reveal what was always underneath. Your glow isn't decoration, it's declaration. It says, "I've met myself in the dark, and now I walk in light." If you've been nodding along to these signs, if you've been feeling them rise in your own life, even quietly, even subtly, know this: your aura is not just changing, it's evolving, expanding, sharpening, awakening into its true form, a living, breathing field of light that reflects the highest truth of who you are. This isn't something you forced, it's something you allowed. It's the result of every inner choice you've made to heal, to grow, to align, every boundary you set, every old pattern you let fall away, every time you chose love over fear, every time you chose truth over illusion. That's what built this. That's what made your energy strong. You're not just becoming powerful, you're becoming real, aligned, embodied, whole. And when you live in that frequency, your aura does the rest. It speaks for you before you enter a room. It draws in the right people. It protects you from what no longer belongs. It illuminates your path even when your mind is uncertain. So if you've been wondering why you feel more sensitive, more aware, more drawn to solitude, more detached from drama, more attuned to nature, more intuitive than ever before, this is why. You're no longer just surviving. You're vibrating. You're transmitting the signal of someone who remembers. And you don't need to do more to be powerful. You don't need to work harder, speak louder, prove anything, or wait for permission. Your power is not in how much you produce. It's in how much you align. You're powerful when you're honest, when you're grounded, when you're peaceful, when you're present. Because presence is what carries true light. This is the great secret they don't teach in school, that your aura, your energy, your vibration is your most magnetic asset. It holds the blueprint for your reality, and as you refine it, your life begins to reshape around it. So let yourself soften, let yourself shine, let yourself become so radically aligned that your energy does the speaking, the protecting, the calling, and the clearing. Let your life become a reflection of the truth you now embody. Not perfection, but presence. Not control, but coherence. And if you ever doubt your glow, remember what you've walked through to get here. Remember the silence you endured, the heaviness you carried, the things you healed without recognition, the darkness you didn't run from. You didn't just survive. You transformed. You alchemized pain into wisdom, chaos into clarity, scar tissue into strength. Your aura is the echo of all that, a field of energy that says, I've done the work, I'm still doing the work, and I'm not hiding my light anymore. You've become a tuning fork for truth, a mirror for authenticity, a sanctuary for those who are ready to rise. Your aura will continue to evolve. It will grow stronger, brighter, more sovereign with time, and it will keep reflecting who you are becoming, moment by moment. Choice by choice, breath by breath. Because in the end, your aura isn't just energy. It's a signature, a soul print, a silent sacred testimony of how deeply you've chosen to show up for yourself, and for the light you came here to embody. Let that be your reminder. You don't need to chase your power, you are the power. Let your aura speak that truth even when you don't have the words. And the people who are meant to hear it, they will feel it. Instantly. Because real energy doesn't need to be explained. It just is.